This meeting is now being recorded.
Great. So thank you again for joining us. I'm Abra. I've emailed with both of you. Also on the line is Courtney Cameron, who's with Seattle Housing Authority. Courtney, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am thrilled to be on this call and super excited about this upcoming webinar. I've helped with the facilitation with Abra for these webinars over the last few that we've had. We're super excited to have this one. So I just look forward to kind of walking through this with Abra and getting everything set up so it'll run really smoothly. The prior ones have run really smoothly, so I have no doubt that this one will too.
Great. Just a reminder, because Ashley, I don't think Durham has previously been involved in the education working group. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, so we're super excited to have you all join. I know you're doing some exciting things in this area. And Katie, just as a little bit more background, so CLPHA has about 70 members, just housing authorities all across the country, and we are really involved in what we call systems alignment work, which is just the idea that we're never going to accomplish these issues around poverty just by housing people. That's obviously a hugely important step, and we know that a lot of the research says that housing stability is really one of the most important things in all these other positive outcomes in other areas. But we really want to look at how we can better align the housing authorities' work with some of these other areas. So education is one of our main focuses. And as part of that, we have an education working group, which is made up of about 30, maybe a few more, of our members. And as part of that, we do webinars every other month. So the upcoming one is next week. Just a reminder to everyone. I was saying to Courtney, I'll send out the same sort of invitation that I did for this that we're doing now. I'll send that tomorrow to everyone, including you all. But it's next Tuesday, which is the 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
I think we're all in Eastern Time except for you, Courtney. But we do have other housing authorities that are on the West Coast and in the Midwest. So we're glad that we're able to accommodate everyone. So I'm just going to start by going through the software, and like I said, I don't think this will take more than 10 or 15 minutes, but I wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable. And Katie, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the person who you said will be presenting.
Sure, Monica Logan.
Yes. If Monica has questions after listening to this recording, she should feel free to call me or email me, and we can do a quick session. If there are questions that you can't answer or she just wants to go over some other things, that's fine.
Great. Okay.
But everybody right now should be seeing a tree. Is that what everyone is seeing on their screens?
Yes. Welcome to Global Meet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So that's what all of the participants will see during the webinar. Now, I would encourage you, if you have any PowerPoint slides, and you also would be welcome to put it in PDF format, and you send those to me, at least a day in advance, then I'll upload those, and the participants of the webinar will be able to see those slides. But what I'll do for you, and what I'm going to do right now, is I promote you to being host. So now you should be seeing a slightly different screen. Are you all seeing, it says welcome to Global Meet, and there's 4 boxes. The first one says invite guests, then share my screen. Is everyone seeing that?
Yes. I don't see invite guests, but I see share my screen, share a file, and share my webcam.
Okay. I don't know why that one's missing for you, but it's not a big deal. That's not something that the presenters will need to do. But so when you all sign on, what I do is I just go ahead and immediately, as soon as you're all connected next week, I'll go ahead and promote you to being a host. And then I also tell the participants that I'm going to mute them so that if they're typing notes during the webinar or, a colleague comes into their office, we don't have to worry about people forgetting to hit the mute button themselves and sort of interrupting the flow of things. So, like I said, You'll see above Welcome to Global Meet, there's something else that says Screen Share, then File Library, and Whiteboard. Does everybody see that?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead just as a sample. File Library is where we keep the presentations. So I'll just pull up one of the November presentations. Here. Okay, well this does not normally happen. I'm getting an error with trouble loading presentations.
That's okay. That's why we practice.
So let me try a different folder, see if that's any better. Okay, so my apologies. I'm not sure exactly what the hang-up is. Let me just try pulling a new file. Courtney, do you want to go ahead and try? I'm not sure exactly what's going on with my computer.
Sure. So let me, all right. Does everybody see this? So I'm going to go ahead and go to the, nope. It looks like that's not working for me either.
Okay. And now my computer is sort of frozen. Okay. Well, my apologies. Let me try this one more time. But like I said, what will happen is that I will upload.
There's something that popped up on my computer. It says file ready, CLPHA College Success webinar version is ready to share.
Okay. Are you able to
I have
click on
that
it?
message.
But because my screen's just blank when I go to File Library now.
Yeah. Maybe we can just check that part and make sure
Yeah.
we get the PowerPoints ahead of time and get them, and we can test it to make sure. Abra and I can call early or the day before and make sure it's all loaded and ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Courtney. So I'm also not sure what's going on my end. My computer seems to have frozen a little bit, but I will just keep going. So the way we've been working it, and I think it's worked really well the past several webinars, is that and after this call, besides sending out a recording of this session, I will also send out the agenda for the webinar. It's really pretty basic. But if anyone has any modifications to that, please let me know by the end of the week so that I can make those changes. But essentially, I'll just begin by giving a very brief overview of the webinar software, just for anyone who hasn't used it before. I'll let them know, like I said, that they'll be muted. And then we explain how people can ask question and answers. So you'll see, if you stay in the top, but you go over more to the right, you'll see two overlapping speech bubbles with the letters Q and A below it. So what participants can do is, and you guys can try this right now if you'd like, they can click on it at any time during your presentation and they can type out a question. They can choose for that question to either be private or public. If they choose for it to be public, it will show up on the left-hand side of the screen where it says public chat. If they choose for it to be private, then just the host will be able to see it. So that's me, Courtney, and the two of you, or Ashley and Monica. We don't expect any of the presenters to worry about the questions. We want you to just focus on giving your presentation. So Courtney and I will handle that, and what will happen is at the end of your presentation, usually Courtney will say, she'll talk on the phone and she'll say, you know, these are the questions that we've received, just like we were all together in person and the moderator was, you know, fielding questions from the audience. So that's been working pretty well for us. People seem fairly comfortable. What Courtney and I also do is if anyone's having problems, they can send us a chat or an email. You'll notice next to your name, there's a little arrow. Does everyone see that on the left side of the screen?
Yes.
So you see that there's a mute button. Just for reference, I've never used that mute button. I prefer to use the mute button on my telephone. I think that mute button only works if you're connected only through the computer, as opposed to most people, their screen is through the computer, but the voice part is through their phone.
Right.
The unmerge button, that's also something that you would not want to press. It'll sort of take you away from the webinar. But you'll see that next button where it says chat. And again, you're welcome to try it right now if you'd like. I think the last webinar, one of our presenters was having some technical difficulties, and he was able to use that to communicate with Courtney and I. And it's just like any other sort of chat program. If you're familiar with GChat in Gmail or like Instant Messenger, it's a really same concept. A little box will pop up, and you can, so you would do the drop down next to whoever you would like to chat with. So if you wanted to send a chat to Courtney, you would click the arrow next to her name. And then you could say something like, hey, Courtney, I can't hear anybody. You know, what's going on? And we can sort of, you know, use that time to help you without sort of doing it over the phone with all the participants being able to hear what's going on. So I see that
went ahead and just send a quick message so you can see how the public chat works, because it is super useful, but it is good to know that there's the two different ways to do it. The more private one, if you're like, oh my gosh, we had a problem or there's some issue, and that's Abra and I, our role is to help handle those glitches as they come up, and so that it's super smooth for everybody who's viewing the webinar.
And the only thing I'll just say is I try to remember, and I think it's helpful for you all as well, just if I'm not actually speaking and if you're not actually presenting, just to remember to mute, just because then if you do need to type, that'll be less distracting. Courtney's really good at reminding me about that, so I just like to pass along the reminder. That's how we do the question and answer, and like I said, it's been working really well. Occasionally we don't have enough time to get to all of the questions, so it may be a situation where after the webinar is over, because we do like to be respectful of the 1 hour time block, you know, it might be a situation where we'll have you all answer those questions in like an email that we send to the whole group. Courtney, am I leaving anything out about Q&A?
Nope, I think that's great. Sometimes people ask similar questions. Sometimes they ask questions that are really specific to their situation, and so that's good to follow up on after. But no, I think you covered it.
Okay, great. So I just tried opening the file library again, and it looks like the new one that I uploaded is loading. Is anyone seeing that on their screen yet?
Yes,
I'm the Cambridge Housing Authority.
Great. So this is from one of our past presentations. So basically we have two choices. If you would prefer, just let me know and I can advance the slides for you during your presentation. You could just say, you know, next slide please. But if you would like to just do it yourself, then you'll see these buttons up here in the top left that I'm pointing to. So it's pretty self-explanatory. This button brings you forward. You know, this one goes back. This is to jump ahead to the end. This is to jump ahead to the beginning. You'll also notice under options at the top right, you have the choice to show your cursor or not. So if you have a map or a graph, or you see here on slide 2, they have sort of a lot of boxes. It might be useful for you to have your cursor to be able to point so that the people watching it might help them to know where to look if there's a certain thing you want to draw their attention to. But it's up to you. You just have to decide if you want to show that cursor or not by clicking up here. And again, it's up to you if you want to have control of your slides and click yourself, or if you'd like me or Courtney to do it for you, just let us know. But this is what it will look like. And I don't know what the hang-up was before, but like Courtney said, we'll make sure that it's working for the presentation. I think maybe somehow those files might have gotten corrupted from the last presentation. But that's basically it. There is a poll button up here. We used it once to gauge attendance for a meeting. If that's something you'd like to use to incorporate, we're happy to help you do that. You can see if you click on it, it's best you type in a question, and you can decide what type of poll or survey you want to have. It's not something we've really used before. I don't think presenters have really found a need for it, but it's there as an option if you'd like to. I think that's pretty much it. We typically don't do the screen share function. That would mean that all the people joining the webinar would see your screen exactly how you're seeing it. So if you have notes open or also your emails open, that probably isn't something you want everyone to be seeing. So that's why we typically stick to the uploaded files. Like I said, a PowerPoint format or PDF, both are fine, so it's whatever you're more comfortable with.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually, you said the PDF, whatever format we use, needs to be sent to you at least the day before?
Yeah, so it doesn't take me very long to upload them, but I feel like sure that there aren't any problems like we just experienced earlier. So if you all could make sure you get them to me by Monday, that should today, that should be totally fine. And the other thing I was going to say is you'll see that this was about 13 slides, and I think that, Courtney, would you say that's usually about how long? I mean, in terms of...
Yeah, I wouldn't do any more than probably 13 because the introduction, so we have an hour. The introduction takes, 5 to 7 minutes to get everybody up and on board and rolling. We start on time, but it just sometimes takes a second. And then Abra often calls roll. And so, half an hour gets squeezed pretty quickly. So I think 10 slides is probably a good number to shoot for. And that leaves enough room for questions. And if you do less than 10, I think that's also okay.
Yeah, definitely less is fine. But just as sort of a gauge, yeah, I would say about 10 is usually good for the time that we have.
And this is Katie. Can you just remind me, Ashley and NSLA, will each have how long for our presentations?
Yeah, we thought about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that leaves us some time. Like Courtney said, we do try to start right at 2 o'clock, but there's always, people who are joining late. And then, like I said, I have to give a little bit of an introduction. So, and then we like to leave some time at the end for concluding remarks.
Sure.
And we really just never know how many questions people will have. So, yeah, definitely no more than 20 minutes. Plan for about 15. And if either of you have, I know I've emailed with both of you separately, but, Ashley, we had talked about just sort of focusing on your specific summer programming. And for Monica, I think some of our housing authorities may be familiar with NSLA, but some of them probably aren't. So I'm sure it could be helpful to do a brief overview of the organization, and then really focus on ways that housing authorities can work with NSLA as they engage in sort of out-of-school learning time, which is what we like to call after-school programming and summer programming and winter break programming.
You said, and you called it out-of-school learning time? Is that right?
Yeah, that's sort of just what we say to encompass everything. Obviously, perfect. I know your focus will be on summer. And the reason we wanted to have this webinar in January is that our thinking was that hopefully for housing authorities who want to try something new this summer, they would still have time to, connect with you guys after the fact, maybe try some things out that Durham Housing Authority is doing. We were hoping that January would be enough time for folks to still be able to implement something for the summer months.
Yeah.
One thing could also, just adding one piece to that is just some background information on the size of Durham and such would be also interesting.
Okay.
And Ashley, can you find me an MTW agency?
I'm sorry to hear what you said.
Oh, I couldn't remember if you all were an MTW agency.
You're breaking up. I'm sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I was just wondering if Durham was a moving to work agency.
Can you explain it? We don't use that term. Can you explain it? We have another term we use for that.
Okay, well, you're probably not if you're not familiar with the term. It's a special, federal designation. It's actually great that I don't think you all are. And
no, we're not. I don't recognize that term, so I don't think we are.
That's actually really great because one of the things we've gotten feedback on is there's only a few housing authorities that have that designation, and so it's really helpful for our members to hear from people who aren't. So that's great. Okay, I just wanted to double check. I couldn't remember.
So to Abra's point, I think that's probably good for either Abra to mention, possibly at the beginning, and then just to get a little context around the size and number of residents and just a little context so people have that as they're hearing about the other pieces that you're going to share. And Ashley, I'm going to go ahead and add some notes about this to the agenda, just as a reminder to everybody. Okay. Did anyone have any other questions? I want to adhere to the time frame I gave you.
This is Katie again. Ashley, if you have something that you would be able to share with me by email that's just like a brief description about your summer program, or maybe there's a website, it'd be great for us to kind of know about that before the call in case we have examples of, things that we could connect to the work that you guys are actually doing in the summer would be really great.
Okay, and what's your email? Is your email just in the email, isn't there? I can
you can send it to me and I'll share it with Monica, who will be actually on the webinar, and I'll let her know, what you passed along, and that way if she has any questions, she could just reach out to you directly.
Okay. Yeah, I have a blurb about summer camp for what we do. No problem.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, if nobody has any other questions, like I said, I think sometimes it takes a couple of hours for the recording of this to be available, but I will send out an email with the link to that so that Monica can access it, and I will also send out my email with, the agenda is pretty straightforward, but like I said, I'm adding a couple notes based on our conversation today.
Okay.
So please know if anyone has any changes to that. And also, please send me your slides by Monday.
Okay. Perfect. And Abra, you might have said this. I'm sorry if I missed it, but what time do you want Monica and the rest of you all to call into the webinar?
I forgot to say that, and I really appreciate you reminding me. So Courtney and I have found, and you may have noticed today, that sometimes the program has like a lag in the screen showing up when you first log on. So we definitely suggest that, and Courtney and I will be on, 15 to 20 minutes early. And what we can do is if you have any last minute questions, that's a great time for us to answer them. If you are having difficulty, then certainly that is really great to figure out sooner rather than later. And then if no one else is on, usually we'll just sort of finish up whatever we need to finish up, and everybody's just on and ready to go. And you don't have to worry about talking to anyone else until 2 o'clock if there's other things you want to work on.
Great, that sounds really good. And then will we use the same login for the meeting?
Yeah, so I'll send out the same way that I sent out that invitation for this meeting. It will look exactly the same for the next one. I don't think that they change the login each time, but I actually don't ever pay attention because I have our company login that I use.
Okay.
I would say just make sure that Monica is logging in, and Ashley, this goes for you too. Just make sure you're logged using the new email that I send, and I'm going to send that tomorrow morning to everyone.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So 1:30.
I'm sorry?
So 1:30 would be good for us to log in next week?
Yeah, I don't know if you need to come on quite that early. I think probably 1:45 would be fine.
Okay. All right.
Courtney, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. As long as we have all the documents uploaded and ready and everybody sent in their stuff, then I think 15 minutes ahead is perfect.
Great. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone. And, of course, if you do find today or tomorrow or any other time that you have another question, please just send me an email or give me a call.
All right.
Abra, thanks for pulling all of these pieces together.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much to both of you. I'm very excited to have you present.
Excited as well. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.